Hello everyone and welcome back to Age Nagash, which is a channel dedicated to Age Sigmar. Now, in this video, we're going to look at the allegiance abilities for the Slaves to Darkness. So, the last video I did was the lore video for Slaves to Darkness, basically just explaining where they are in Mortal Realms and what they're all about and where they were in the world that was. And this is going to be the first sort of tactics video of what they're like in the game, you know, this first sort of army video in comparison to their lore. So, with their allegiance abilities, what we're going to start with is their battle trait. So the first one is Awe of Chaos Power. It says, the champions of the Chaos Gods can grant some of the powers they receive to their followers. And what this means is that if you're not aware that most Slaves to Darkness models can dedicate themselves to one of the four Chaos Gods. So, you know, being Khorne, Suresh, Nergal and Tzeentch. Now, so because of that and how Slaves of Darkness, you know, the allegiance abilities want to reward you for sort of picking a chosen god, is they grant you certain abilities for those Slaves of Darkness units with that keyword. And of course, there's also a way to be sort of undivided, if that's how you would rather. You sort of, you know, your army sort of worship all the Chaos Gods as a sort of collective pantheon, how I sort of mentioned in their lore video. So going through the abilities here, starting off, if you dedicate your army to Khorne, you know, basically most things in your army taking the Khorne keyword as it describes in their war scroll. It says you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks with their melee weapons used by friendly Khorne Slaves of Darkness units while they are wholly within 8 inches of a friendly Khorne Slaves of Darkness hero. Okay, so that's pretty good. Rerolling hit rolls of 1, yeah, it's only ones, but can make a lot of difference, especially if you can get those units hitting on a good to hit anyway, like a 3-up or maybe even a 2-up potentially, and then getting those rerolls of 1 can really make the difference. Right, and then moving on to the Suresh one, so you can reroll run and charge rolls of friendly Suresh Slaves of Darkness units that are wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Suresh Slaves of Darkness hero when the roll is made. Okay, so firstly, this is similar to the Khorne one, as in you have to be wholly within range. The Khorne was wholly within 8 inches, and this Suresh one wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Suresh, Slaves of Darkness hero for your Slaves to Darkness units of the Suresh keyword. I think personally, getting the rerolls to run and charge rolls are really, really, really good. However, wholly within 6 inches is tricky. You have to stay on top of it. It's not something you're going to get, you know, automatically. You're really going to have to sort of put effort into making sure you're in range to be able to get that ability. Again, it's not a command ability or anything like that, so you're not really expending anything to get this ability, apart from, you know, obviously dedicating to Suresh. So you're not really sacrificing too much to get this ability. What I would say is that as you are going to, you know, like plan your charges ahead and, you know, set things up for the charge, you could, you know, work this around. You could, you know, get your hero in the middle of a unit or just behind it, just to make sure they get the rerolls to charge. And that's, I'm just thinking about a small hero, you know, on a, let's say a 40mm base, something like that. If you had this on a Manticore, obviously that's a lot bigger base, or even a Demon Prince, it's not a small base, is it? So it makes the aura, you know, bigger, doesn't it? Okay, so then moving on to Nergal. You can reroll wound rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Nergal Slaves of Darkness units while they are wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Nergal Slaves of Darkness hero. Okay, so this is obviously similar to the Khorne one, but rerolls to wound rolls of 1, which, yeah, it's good. It depends on each unit, doesn't it? I mean, like, depending on what the attack characteristic is for that unit, is really dependent on, you know, do you want to get the rerolls to wound, or do you want to get the rerolls to hit? Traditionally in the sort of lore, Khorne has always been sort of like the more sort of hitty guy, and Nergal's the more wounding guy. I think that's because if you're wounded by Nergal, you know, it starts to rot and fester and, you know, like poison and all that sort of thing. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for the Nergal one. And then going on to Tzeentch, so you can reroll save rolls of 1 for friendly Tzeentch Slaves of Darkness units while they're wholly within 9 inches of friendly Tzeentch Slaves of Darkness hero. So this one is now wholly within 9 inches, and if you're wondering why the measurements are different and not the same, it's basically just because the lucky numbers for the gods. So Khorne's, well, I say lucky number, you know, their own number, I mean. Khorne's one is 8, you know, Suresh is 6, Nergal 7, and Tzeentch is 9. So that's why there's variance in range just in case you wondered. And then going back to the each one, yeah, reroll save rolls of 1 is obviously really good, and 9-inch range wholly within that obviously isn't massive, but it's bigger than any of the others. But what I would say with this is just bear in mind that that is what Mystic Shield does. That is also what I believe a unit of 20 plus Chaos Warriors with Chaos Rune Shields, I believe that gives them the rerolls, the save rolls of 1. I can't remember too much, I haven't looked at that War Scroll for a long time, but I know it's something like if there's 20 or more of them, they get that ability anyway. I think it's called the Legions of Chaos or something along those lines. There's also the Chaos Sorcerer Lords within the Slaves of Darkness that have a ability. It's called something Vision, but basically you pick a friendly unit, I believe, within 10 inches, and they get to reroll save rolls of 1. So you're sort of getting this ability in various other ways anyway. So that's just something to bear in mind there. And then going on to the last one, which is called No Mark, and essentially means if you're undivided, like I say, if you worship the Chaos Gods as a pantheon, you don't like picking a simple one, you quite like this sort of traditional sort of colour scheme for the Slaves of Darkness on the box set. Quite often it's on the artwork, isn't it, on the box, and that's sort of the armour that's just like silver. Like I say, it's undivided, it's sort of like dark, and it sort of feels more Slaves of Darkness to me, if I'm honest, rather than dedicated to each god. And don't get me wrong, when you see like some awesome cool ones and Zeech ones and Nergal ones and Suresh ones, they do look really nice, and particularly I've seen some really nice Suresh ones out there. But it's also nice to have the choice to be unmarked, just in case you like worshiping all of them. So it's nice to have the option there. But anyway, enough talking about it. What does it actually do? So add 1 to the bravery characteristic of friendly Slaves of Darkness units that do not have a Khorne, Nergal, Suresh or Zeech keyword, while they are wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Slaves of Darkness hero that does not have the Khorne, Nergal, Suresh or Zeech keyword. Okay, so yes, this is good. Adding 1 to bravery might not sound exciting as the others, but just getting added 1 to bravery can be huge. It can make a difference between losing a model in Battleshock, using loads of models compared to using obviously one less essentially, and it makes a difference to you maybe having to do a Battleshock test or not. What I would say, so if you went with unmarked for Slaves of Darkness, I would say it's better going marked. It's better picking a god from the rules point of views anyway, generally, because the other thing to say with Slaves of Darkness is, as these are the Legion's abilities I am reading out, Slaves of Darkness, if you want to play them really competitively, you're better dedicating them to a god and going with their own like god battle tome. If I'm honest, so if you want Khorne Slaves of Darkness, you're better just go and Blades of Khorne and put Slaves of Darkness in there, just because it's a bigger army, it's a bigger faction, there's more rules for them. But if you really want to play Slaves of Darkness and you don't want to dedicate yourself to like a certain god, and you want to be a bit different, that's cool as well, and that's what these rules and abilities allow you to do. Right, okay, then moving on to the second battle trait, and that is Eye of the Gods, and it says the ruinous powers grant their champions gifts that make the faithful mighty indeed. And this is basically talking about the path to glory, and this is awesome because, like I mentioned, the path to glory in the lore video, they've actually sort of implemented that into the game as well, which I think is really, really cool. So it says, if a friendly Slaves of Darkness hero, excluding a demon prince, makes an attack with a melee weapon that slays one or more enemy heroes or monsters, make a roll on the Eye of the Gods table after your hero attacks have been completed. So the Eye of the Gods table, so on the 2d6 roll, if you roll a 2, you get rewarded with Spawndom, so you can add a Chaos Spawn to your army. If you do so, set up a Chaos Spawn model within 1 inch of this hero and then remove the hero. The Chaos Spawn cannot fight in the hero phase in which it is set up. If you do not add a Chaos Spawn to your army, this hero suffers D3 mortal wounds instead. Okay, so that obviously gives you a bit of choice there. You want to take the mortal wounds, you want to turn him into a spawn. If he's a really, really good hero and he has a Chaos Rune Shield, I'd probably say take the mortal wounds in this option unless you really want that spawn, just because you've got a good chance of saving against them. Let's say, you know, you roll a 5 or 6 on the D3, so that means you're going to take 3 mortal wounds. You've got a Chaos Rune Shield, you save, you know, against one of those, you know, being a third. So, you know, you're going to take a hit, but, you know, you can take it essentially if you've got one of those shields. However, if it's a weak hero you've got, you know, let's just say it's one of the cheapest ones there are, and somehow it's managed to kill an enemy hero or monster, because, you know, it does have to do that, and that's not always an easy task to do. But let's say he does turn him into a Chaos Spawn. It's not the end of the world, is it? You know, he might have even got a bit better in the attack characteristics. So then if you roll a 3 to 4 on the 2d6 roll, you get the Unholy Resilience. So add 1 to the hero's wound characteristics for the rest of the battle. So now we're starting to get good ones. You know, we're starting to get positive ones, which is nice. It's only really the first one that is, you know, shown as a negative. So a 3 to 4 on the roll, Unholy Resilience, that adds 1 to your hero's wound characteristics, is generally quite good. You know, it gives them that extra wound. So many times you have a hero that takes damage and it's like, oh, he's only got 1 wound left. Oh, she's just taking that 1 wound, that 1 damage, which just means that, you know, she has died in this, which can really be, you know, a game changer. It sounds like a small little thing, but it does happen. I'm sure we've all got a story to tell of it. Right, okay, and then if you roll a 5 on the 2d6 roll, you get Iron Skin. So add 1 to save rolls for this hero for the rest of the battle. Okay, again, now this is good, especially for, you know, it can be things like a Sorcerer Lord, can be also good for, obviously, up-front heroes, you know, like, if we look at a big baddie, you know, your Chaos Lord on Manticore, or your, you know, Demon Prince, probably your 2 best, you know, combat heroes in the army. Getting add 1 to your save rolls, getting pretty good now, you know, your, I believe that makes the Demon Prince save a 3+, and then I believe that does for the Chaos Lord on a Manticore, then has a 3+ save. If you really want to, chuck a Mystic Shield on them, 3+ save, we roll at 1 now. Yeah, he's pretty goddamn good, in all honesty. And it's that nice little thing there, getting the add 1 to save, which can really make a difference. And like I say, put a Mystic Shield on them, but also if you put that, like I said, that Sorcerer's ability on them, which is, it's called something Vision. It gives them the rerolls to save rolls of 1, so it's like an easy way to do it. And that ability is free. It's just pick something being 10 inches, I believe, and they're just getting that ability. So it's great. Okay, and then if you roll a 6 to 8 on a 2d6 roll, you get the Eye Opens, so you can re-roll the next failed hit, wound, or save roll for this hero. So how I look at that is that it doesn't mean the next hit, wound, and save roll you're going to re-roll. You know, if it's failed, it means that whatever comes up first is the one you re-roll. So if you're in, the next thing you're going to do with the hero is you're going to go into your combat phase and you're going to attack with him, and you fail a to hit roll, you're going to re-roll that to hit roll. You're not going to save it for a to wound roll, or vice versa. If the next thing you're doing with this hero is that he's taking attacks from the enemy, you're going to use this on his you know, failed save roll. That's how I read it. You guys might read it differently, but that's just how I think it. I think it's for the next one that comes up, not all 3 of them. Then if you roll a 9 on the 2d6 rolls, you get the Murderous Mutation, which is add 1 to hit rolls for this hero for the rest of the battle. Yep, that's good. Just a flat add 1 to hit rolls. Can make your heroes, you know, if they're hitting on 3s now, that's really good. They hit on 2s, you know, that's amazing, especially how we've already said there's ways to get those rerolls to hit rolls of 1, you know, particularly if you're dedicated to Khorne, as mentioned before. So yeah, I like that, that's good. And then you've got, if you get a 10 to 11 on a 2d6 roll, you get the Slaughter's Strength, so add 1 to wound rolls for this hero for the rest of the battle. So like I said, getting that add 1 to hit roll was really good. Now getting add 1 to wound roll is equally as good, as my opinion. Obviously it depends on what hero you've got. You might rather than get the add 1 to hit rather than wound, and vice versa, particularly if they're already hitting on a 2 or wounding on a 2 anyway, if they're that good. I'm not too sure if there is that sort of characteristic there are out there in State of Darkness, but yeah, obviously if you're already hitting on wounding on a 2, you're not going to want to get +1 to those, because it's not really going to go through in you know, match play games. And then the most importantly, what all this Path to Glory is all about, if you roll a 12 on 2d6, so if you get a double 6, this is what you're all after. It says Dark Apparition. So you can add a Demon Prince to your army. If you do so, set up a Demon Prince model within 1 inch of this hero and then remove this hero. The Demon Prince cannot attack in the phase in which it is set up. If you do not add a Demon Prince to your army, heal D3 wounds allocated to the hero instead. Okay, so firstly, you can tell it's very similar to the Spawndom, which we had from the, replacing the hero with a Chaos Spawn. If you don't do that, he takes D3 more wounds. This is basically just the flip side of it, like the good version, which is you replace a Demon Prince. If you don't have one, you heal D3. Obviously, healing D3 wounds if you don't have a Demon Prince. Yeah, it's annoying if you don't have a Demon Prince to, put on the board and, complete this path to glory. However, you're still hitting D3 wounds, aren't you? So it's always a bonus, if you guys are already taking damage. But and then looking at replacing your hero with a Demon Prince, yes, I mean this is pretty good if you're, especially if it's like somehow you've got a really sort of low level hero that's managed to kill an enemy hero. Let's say they managed to kill an enemy wizard, something pretty easy to do. And then you've rolled your dice, you get a double 6, and now that really weak hero that's cost you, like, I don't know, 100 points, 80 points, something like that, has now turned into a Demon Prince. That is absolutely a huge change for him, obviously. Really lucky for you, you got the double 6 there, but can, I don't know if it's game changing, obviously, depending on the size of the game. However, it will definitely impact, your game, and it will definitely be a really, really cool moment. So yeah, definitely found that. And a Demon Prince is better than most of the heroes in the Slaves to Darkness army. Okay, so those were the battle traits for the Slaves to Darkness. And then going on to the command traits. And the first one is Eternal Vendetta. And it says you can reroll failed wound rolls for this general's melee weapons if the target has the order keyword. So obviously, firstly, I'm going to say this is situational, depending if you're fighting order. If you know what army you're going to fight, and it is an order army, let's just say it's your mates down at the shop. Yes, that's a pretty good thing to go for. I mean, obviously, it depends, doesn't it? If you've got a combat in general, if you've got, Chaos Lord or Manticore, it's not going to be bad for him. I'd say there might be some other better ones here, I'd say, but, there's something to bear in mind if you're going against an order army. Obviously, if you're playing in a tournament, you don't know if you're going to fight against an order army. You might likely fight against them, as is very popular, with Stormcast and Sylvaneth and, Fire Celeste, and the list goes on. But obviously, if you're not going to fight an order army, there's no point taking this. And then the next one is Flames of Spite. So if the wound roll for an attack made by the general is a 6+, that target suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to any other damage the attack inflicts. So this is nice how it's 1 mortal wound on top of all the damage you're going to do to the enemy, just to make it not be instead of the damage you do. So that's good that it's clear there. It's also a 6+, so it can be modified, which usually I say if it's a 6+ to hit, that's not good. It can be modified, so you think, oh, I'll give a plus hit here and there just to make it better. I personally don't think that's as good as an unmodified hit roll, just because in Age of Sigmar these days, as I mentioned before, there's more ways to make you minus to hit than pluses to hit. However, with the wound roll, there's not too many ways that make you minuses to wound, as far as I'm aware of at the time of this recording. There are ways to do it. I know there's an artifact which Legion of Nagash has. I think it's the Balefire Lantern, which I've used quite a few in tournaments, been really effective, because the enemy's not expecting you to get -1 to wounds against them. But yeah, generally, I think that's alright. Obviously, it depends on what sort of again, if you're going for a combat hero, obviously this is the one to go for. If you're not going for combat hero, don't go for this. And also, if you're playing against a enemy with really high armor saves, you're fighting against, you're going to fight against Stormcast army with a likely 3-up armor save, re-rolling 1s, and sometimes even 2-up re-rolling 1s. Then yes, this might be pretty good because you're going to get those mortal wounds through. So yeah, that's not too bad. And then looking at the next one, so a Master of Deception, so subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons that target this general. Yep, I think this is a flat good one. I much prefer this than the other two we looked at, just because it's just plain. It's not making the enemy -1 to hit you in shooting, but you've got to look out several, if your hero's not a monster. And it's just, makes you a bit less afraid to get your general stuck into the fight. And yeah, just making your enemy -1 to hit, so it means likely instead of them hitting on 4s, they're hitting on 5s, can make a huge difference. Okay, and then looking at the next one is Hatred Incarnate. So you can reroll wound rolls of 1 for attacks made by this general. Yeah, I mean, again, this is sort of reminding me of the previous ones we've looked at, not the last one, the ones before that. Just because it depends, you know, if you want to have a combat hero, again, this one's okay. Something that's also important to mention again, just to keep you guys, you know, aware. Remember, you guys probably already know this, but remember that these command traits and artifacts aren't going to affect your general's mount. So if you've got a Manticore, the Manticore's not particularly good anyway, but his Manticore is not going to get any of the bonuses from this. So just bear that in mind. Okay, and then at number 5, so Lord of Terror. Subtract 1 from brave characteristics of enemy units while they are within 6 inches of this general. Yep, I can safely say this is my favourite one so far. Definitely. I'm not a massive fan of trying to make a hero a hero in Slaves to Darkness army. They're not all super strong in combat. So if they're not super strong in combat, I'm not huge in trying to push them as hard as you can to make them as good as combat as you can, because that might not be their thing, you know. There's some armies there are out there, you know, some Khorne armies. Definitely try and make them as good in combat as you can, but Slaves of Darkness aren't, you know, going to beat Khorne in a fight. I mean, I know Slaves of Darkness, they can beat Khorne and so on, but you guys know what I mean. But so they'll subtract 1 to the bravery for the enemy. Yeah, I definitely think that's a lot better. It's just flat, nice and straight, and subtracting 1 to bravery, like I said, how good +1 to bravery is, it's huge. I mean, like, I was fighting a Deepian army today, actually, and I fought it with my Flesh-Eater Courts, so not Slaves of Darkness, but, you know, Flesh-Eater Courts, and I had an artifact that made them -2 to bravery, and then this made the eels that I thought had a good bravery. However, it turns out they're only bravery 6, and now they're bravery 4, and he had a unit of 6 of them, and I killed 3. And let's just say his battle shock was not particularly nice with his bravery 4, as he needs to basically roll 1 to be okay, and that did not happen despite his reroll from his banner. Okay, and then on to the last one, so Exalted Champion. So add 1 to the brave characteristic of friendly Slaves of Darkness units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this general. Okay, I like this, especially if you stack this with the no mark for the battle trait for Slaves of Darkness, to give them an extra +1 to their bravery and +1 here. It's getting +2 to their bravery now, so yeah, that's pretty nice. I do like that. I prefer the strap 1 bravery from the enemy. However, the +1 to bravery for you is good. Just also bear in mind that, you know, if you're fighting against an enemy that has bravery 10, -1 to them, it is going to make a bit of a difference, but it's not going to make huge of a difference as compared to adding 1 to your own bravery. Right, so those are the command traits. So my favourite out of them, I would say, is the Lord of Terror. So subtract 1 from bravery characteristic of the enemy whilst they're within 6 inches of this general. And the nice thing, it's not wholly within 6 inches, it's just 6 inches, so you can tag quite a few units in that indeed. Okay, and then artifacts of power. So the first one is Hellfire Sword. So once per battle in your shooting phase, pick an enemy unit within 8 inches of the bearer. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Okay, so this is basically once per game supercharged arcane bolt as it is now. Yes, that's good. I like that, especially how the Slaves of Darkness don't have that much access to shooting. They have bits of shooting here and there, but nothing substantial, shall we say. So a way to do mortal wounds at range is good. They do have a Slaves of Darkness, as we will get into this when we look at the army videos and more scrolls. The Chaos Sorcerer Lord on the Manticore does have a really good spell, Chaos. I think it's called Winds of Chaos, and that spell is fantastic. If you get it off, and you get it off amazingly, you can do, you know, terrible obviously if you don't, you know, cast it successfully. But even when you cast successfully, it can really let you down. And then if you can get it really good and well, as for example, I've killed a Star Drake with this one spell once, and yes, but apart from that, they don't have loads of shooting, loads of range for it. So Hellfire Sword is just an extra bit of range it can give you. And if you've got that really annoying enemy support hero that's behind, you know, his big block of infantry, or let's just say that he's basically protected, you can't really get to him. You've picked off a few wounds at him by doing an arcane bolt here and there, but it could be the Hellfire Sword that's just going to give you just 8 inches is enough range to get him and wipe him out and stop him from synergizing with the rest of the enemy army and making his army a whole lot better. Okay, and then looking at the next one, which is Idolatrous Plaqueheart. Now it says roll a dice each time a mortal wound is allocated to the bearer on a 5+, the mortal wound is negated. Yep, I like that. That's just a flat 5 up as what I called, death saves, or or basically ward saves. Yep, I like that. It's just a good way to keep your general or your hero, whichever one you want to give the artifact to, essentially, alive for longer. So yep, definitely a fan of that. And then going on to the next one, which is Helm of the Oppressor. So subtract 2 from the pro characteristics of enemy units while they are within 6 inches of the bearer. Yep, so I'm sort of preferring the artifacts more, to be honest, than the command traits. And Helm of the Oppressor, for me, straight away is my favourite, because I'm already thinking about pairing that up with the Lord of Terror command trait to make enemy units -3 if they're within 6 inches of yourself. So, yep, really like that. Like I said, if I was fighting against the Deepkin again today, which, like if I was fighting against those eels, or even the sharks, very, very sort of elite units, they're only bravery 6, so, like, if the enemy has a unit of 3 sharks, which I have fought before, bravery 6, -3 from this, bravery 3, even if he loses one of those, he's in a lot of trouble. And yes, it does mean that, the hero has to stay alive and all that sort of thing to do it, but, you can work around that. You can make sure, keep him alive. And even if he's not in the thick of fighting, he can just be behind your Chaos Warriors, something like that, but within range of the enemy, to make it important when it comes to the Battle Shock phase. Okay, and then the next one, which is a Banner of a Demonage, which says that add to the bravery characteristics of friendly Slaves of Darkness units while they are wholly within 12 inches of the bearer. Okay, I like this one as well. I still prefer the Helm of the Oppressor, because like I say, I think it's better to make the enemy minus bravery than for you to get plus bravery. But if I had a spare artifact so far, the Banner would be my second choice, definitely, because you can also make the Slaves of Darkness have very high bravery from the artifacts and battle traits and the command traits you choose. And then the next one, which is a Mark of the All Favoured. So the bearer has the Khorne, Nergal, Suresh and Tzeentch keywords. Now when I first heard this, I thought, right, okay, if you want to make your guy pretty good in combat, let's just say even just like a Chaos Lord and Demonic Mount, giving them all these keywords and giving them access to all those abilities is really good. However, I have heard that there's been an FAQ saying that they do not gain all the abilities. They gain all the keywords, but they don't gain all the abilities for those corresponding keywords. I have not personally seen this FAQ, but it's something that I've seen on Facebook, so obviously take it with a pinch of salt, but just bear in mind that might be the case. If it isn't the case, yep, great, amazing. But if it is the case, it obviously makes it a lot less viable. I think there might be reasons why you would take it, but for me personally, it doesn't cut the cut compared to the rest. Well, I mean the rest, I mean the two that I've been really excited about so far, which was the Banner and the Helm. Okay, and then the next one is a Desecrator Gauntlet. So subtract 2 from casting rolls of enemy wizards while they are within 3 inches of the bearer. In addition, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by the bearer if the target is a wizard or priest. Okay, so this is quite good if you want to get your guy up in front if you're going to play against a very high, magic army. I mean, it really does depend though, because if you're going against just a standard, a wizard or sorcerer, obviously you're just, making them -2 to casting if they're within 3 inches of you, and you're sending quite a high combat guy up to deal with them. They're not going to stay around long enough for this really to be important. But if you're going against let's say a Tzeentch army, and you're going against a Lord of Change, you've got this guy nearby, just making him that -2 to cast, or if it's a Death army like Legions of Nagash and so on, making that and in wizard a -2 to cast, especially if they're a big wizard, like a Mortark, or even Nagash, like I said, Lord of Change or Kairos or something like that, is really going to make a difference. And again, that add 1 to wound roll can just be enough just to really start doing damage to the enemy, especially if you were to pair that with the Flames of Spike command trait, which, if you remembered, allowed you to do an additional mortal wound to the enemy on a 6+2 wound. So you're tying that in with the +1 to wound here. Of course it's situational, but it's just something to bear in mind as a interesting option, I think. Right, so looking at the artifacts, my favourite is definitely Helm of the Oppressor to make the enemy -2 to bravery. And then if I had a second one, it would be the banner for sure to get +2 to bravery itself. So looking at the allegiance abilities overall for Slaves of Darkness, we've gone through them all now. We've gone through the battle traits, the command trait, and the artifacts of power. I think, in all honesty, my favourite ones are probably, if I was to think about it, the Suresh one for the Awe of Chaos. Just because I think that ability, yes, you have to be wholly within 6 inches, so it's really small, wholly within. But if you can try and make that work, I think it could be really good. And also for me, Suresh is my favourite out of those 4. So yeah, I would definitely do that. So yes, that's the sort of route I'd go in Slaves of Darkness army if I was to do one. I would like to do one, but there's so much on at the moment, so that's just going to have to wait a little bit longer, I do think. So yes, that's what I'd go for that personally for myself. And then looking at the command traits, like I said, my favourite one was the Lord of Terror to make the enemy -1 to bravery, and then of course I'd pair this up with the Helm of the Oppressor to make the enemy a -3 to bravery. And yes, you're sticking all your eggs into one basket if you put it all into one hero, which would be your general in this case. However, you could give your general the Lord of Terror and then another hero next to your general, the Helm of the Oppressor, to split it between 2 targets for the enemy to try and deal with. So yes, the allegiance abilities for the Slaves of Darkness, if I'm completely honest, they're not bad. There are better allegiance abilities out there. I think you guys listen to this, most of you, I think you're fully aware of that. There are better allegiance abilities out there, and if you do really want to take Slaves of Darkness, you want to play them competitively, you're going to be better just picking one of the Chaos Gods and, you know, like the Blaze Corn, Cyber Siege, making a Nergal, and so on, and just going with one of their books. If you're thinking about doing it with Suresh, I would say, if you really want to get stuck in, crack on now. I'm not going to stop you doing that, but I would say maybe hold off, because I feel like Suresh is going to get something this year, so, you know, maybe see where they go with that. It's up to you, but just a little bit of advice. And yeah, like I say, so they're not bad. They're not the best, you know, Slaves of Darkness, their allegiance abilities, but they've got allegiance abilities, you know, compared to so many of the older armies that don't. And what I want to say is, I wanted to, you know, crack on the army videos and stuff, which is why I'm doing this, for the Slaves of Darkness. Now, they might get a new battle tome, you know, at the end of this year maybe, or next year, or some point this year, who knows. But if they do, it might be, you know, the might be called the Dark Oath, might be getting renamed, all that sort of thing. However, I guess that could be, for all we know, in half a year from now, but it could be in 2 years from now. And that's why I wanted to get a video out there for Slaves of Darkness, another one, just to give them a bit more love, because yeah, this information, you know, in like 2 years time, you know, or whatever, most things in 2 years time is probably going to become irrelevant, but at least it's giving something, you know, at least we're talking about the Slaves of Darkness, you know, for people who are collecting them and all that sort of thing, because I've realised when I did the lore video, I saw quite a few of you people were happy that I did a lore video for the Slaves of Darkness, and it was really nice to see that, just so I know I was going in the right sort of direction. And on that sort of note, I'll finish with the Slaves of Darkness. Yep, the allegiance abilities, you know, not amazing, but they are pretty nice, and I'm personally a big fan of making the enemy minus the bravery, like I've said throughout this video, just because the bravery and battle shock phase is something the enemy doesn't necessarily think about and can sometimes be forgetful of how impactful it can be. So if you can take advantage of that, it's great. So yes, that is the allegiance abilities for the Slaves of Darkness. Yes, not too bad, I'd say. Definitely worth reading. And also the Path to Glory thing, I think, is really fun in the battle trait. You know, it's a really flavoursome and really fluffy ability, that. And then, so yeah, that's the Slaves of Darkness Allegiance abilities. I hope you guys enjoyed that. What I also want to ask you guys is, I did today pick up the Gloom Spike Gits, I believe. They're a battle tome today, just because it was released today. And of course I'm going to have a read through it and stuff, and I want to ask you guys if you would like me to do a video on them. As you might have noticed, I haven't really talked about them that much, and I haven't done a video, and I usually do the videos with the new releases, but I just thought I'd hold off and just ask you guys, just because obviously they're really popular. You know, Grot's getting an update. I think that's fantastic. I'm a massive fan of it. I would dive into it, but I'm working on my scaling at the moment, and the Grotza became super popular with this. So if an army is really popular, it sort of puts me off it. If I'm honest, I don't really want to do what everyone else is doing. That might just be me being funny, but that's personally what I'm like. So the reason I was going to ask you guys if you want me to do a video on them is just because they're so popular. Everyone's doing videos about the Gloomspite kit, so I don't know if you wanted me to do a video of them as well, so I can tell you my thoughts, or you've already got enough information about them, and if I was to do a video about them, it would be a little bit pointless because so many of the big channels and all there have already produced one. So it'd be great if you guys could let me know if you want me to do one of the Gloomspite kits video in the future, because like I say, I can do it, but if you guys would rather me produce other things instead because you've already got quite a bit of content for that army on YouTube, please let me know. Right, okay guys, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've found it somewhat useful, or just generally enjoyed the bit of love towards Slaves to Darkness. And if you have enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and comment down below, as that has always helped me massively. As I always say, I can't thank you guys enough. It's been really great to see the support. And yes, so I thank you guys very much for watching this. And remember, until next time, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.